All right, buddy. I'm good.
Okay. Hey, welcome everybody to Pro Mindset Podcast. This is Craig, your host. Today, my guest is Ricky D. Ricky's a comedian. He's a coach. You're an actor.
I'm an actor. Yes.
Keynote speaker.
Yes.
You're a jack of all trades.
I try to be. I try to be a jack of all trades, but you know what they say, jack of all trades, master of none. I try not to go with that moniker.
Absolutely. So, Ricky, why don't you share your full name?
Full name. So first name is Ricardo, but everyone goes by Ricky. And I was named because my parents loved I Love Lucy. So they actually named me Ricky Ricardo. So I go by Ricky. Last name is Del Rosario. So Ricky Del Rosario.
Okay. And so what is your story? What would you like the audience to know about you?
Wow, that's a loaded question. It's a long story. What do we want to dive into, Craig? I mean, it's literally one where there's many chapters. And if you give me a chapter, we can break the chapter down, because unless you don't want to, it literally will be a 3-hour podcast. We don't want that. People are going to get bored.
We definitely don't want a 3-hour podcast today, but what I can share with you that I think that everybody can identify with is the breakthrough. Yes, you had a tough background, but you're not identified by your past.
Of course. Of
right?
course.
You found a way. Some people do, some people don't find a way to overcome the obstacles that life brings them.
Yes.
In sports, in business, being an entrepreneur, being a performer, everybody faces a ginormous amount of adversity.
Yeah.
See it when they're up on stage or when they're hoisting up a trophy or something like that. So I would like for you to share, what was the obstacle that you had to overcome? How did you break through? And what did you find on the other side?
I think I broke through very early in life, which I think was good. At the same time, the childhood was rough. Young was, even after childhood, young adulthood was very rough. But many people say this when they succeed is, I would not trade it for the world. I wouldn't want to go through it again, but I would not trade it for the world. When I was 2, my parents divorced. I moved to San Diego with my mother. She was a young mother. So she had my brother when she was 16. She had me when she was 18. So she was young. She wasn't able to have that fun time in high school where you go out and prom and things like that. She's pregnant in high school. So when she had myself and my brother, it was more like she felt like she wanted to live her life, what she missed out on high school. My brother ended up moving back with my father. I stayed with my mother, but it was tough because I was kind of more like an accessory. I wasn't like a son. I was more of an accessory, where when it felt time for her to have fun and spend time with me, that was when she would do that. Besides that, it was kind of pushed to the side. I would wake up when I was about 7 years old to go to school. I would wake up myself because she was working. About 7, 8 years old, I'd wake up, make my bed, make my breakfast, pack my lunch, walk to school, which was pretty good distance, go to the after school program. After the after school program, I would walk home in the dark, come home. She's gone already. She's working during that time because she worked kind of the middle of the day and at nighttime. And then I would make my dinner, pot pie. I would make, mac and cheese, something like that. I'd sit and watch Love Boat, Fantasy Island, and, Magnum PI, all those fun shows, and then go to bed. And then that was Monday through Friday. That's what I did. And then when the weekends came, I would take my bike and just go ride around, because I didn't really want to hang out with my mom. It wasn't like there was a bond between us at all. It was more like she was my roommate. That paid all the bills, of course. That's a good roommate. But at the same time, I was able to just be by myself, which actually I liked. I liked doing that a lot. So I would be by myself, and she had boyfriends coming in the house all the time. And one of the worst parts about being young at that age where you can't control anything is she would allow her boyfriends to hit me. So I want to say the breakthrough point for me was one time when her boyfriend was hitting me, and he literally picked me up by my pants from the back, slammed me down on the ground, and just was hitting me. And then my mom's on the couch, and she's just watching it. I mean, her eyes are just staring at me, and there's nothing. I mean, it's like, when you can look into somebody's soul and their conscious and you don't see anything. I just saw like pretty much a glass window. She just allowed this guy to continue to hit me. And it was like, I couldn't even believe it. And I'm looking at her, in my head, I'm saying like, why is this happening? How can you let this happen? As a parent, I know I'm a parent, and when I see my daughters, I'm like, there's just no way I could ever let that even happen to my daughters. It was not even something that I would even think about. But she continued to, let her boyfriends hit me. And then she would always push me to the side where I would have times where she would have me go ride my bike. One time I was riding my bike and I was in San Diego and she said, you want to go on a bike ride, Ricky? And I was like, yeah, sure. Because I always like to ride my bike. So one day she goes, how about you meet us? We're going to meet these guys.
Is that you or is that Jose? That's got that.
That is me. There's my business phone went off and it's silent, but it went off. I don't know why. I'm actually going to unplug it. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay.
That wasn't at the beginning, then it started getting to where it was distracting.
It was distracting me. Sorry about that, Craig.
Okay.
Let me know where you want to go from.
Just start up where you left off. And I honestly lost track. You were getting abused by a boyfriend. You had this disconnection with your mother.
Yeah. Okay. So one day my mother asked me, she said, do you want to go on a bike ride? Because she knew I loved to ride my bike. So I said, yeah. So I had met these guys, 8 adult men at Balboa Park in San Diego. And I got in a van with them. There was no one watching me, just these 8 guys. And we just drove for hours. I didn't remember. I fell asleep. And then I woke up and it was like almost nighttime. And the guys get out and they go, okay, guys, we're going to ride back to San Diego. So make sure you get a good night's sleep and make sure you get some food. And I literally was an 8-year-old kid with a Bugs Bunny t-shirt, 501 jeans on and Converse. And I was like, hell no. I didn't even know I was, going to ride this big, long distance. And I didn't even have a bike. So they gave me an adult bike. In the morning, they're looking at the map on what direction to go. They say, make sure you don't go left here because you'll end up getting lost or don't go right there. And I'm a kid just trying to soak all this stuff in. I can't read a map. And I'm looking and I'm like, holy crap. So in the morning, they're gone. They shoot off and I'm by myself on this gigantic men's bicycle riding in the desert in the summertime, 100+ heat, probably about 14 hours a day in the desert. They did randomly have a guy come every once in a while and check on you to see if you're okay or not. But I did not want to go in the van. I just kept on riding. And there were times where there's a fork in the road, you don't know which way to go. And when I reached that fork in the road, I knew in my head, I was like, I'm alone. I'm by myself. I have no mother to rely on, no father to rely on, no person to rely on. I just have to make it. So that's kind of where I had the struggle in my mind where I'm not going to just lay down, put the bike down, sit in the desert. I'm going to finish this out. So after 10 days of riding, I ended up getting back to San Diego. Every night I would grab the meal when I got to the camp, eat the meal, lay down, look at the stars. There was no tent to sleep in. So I'm sleeping in the stars in my same exact outfit, get up in the morning and ride again. And as an 8-year-old kid, I was just like, this is nuts. So that was the point where I knew it was me. I was my own my own caretaker. I had nobody else that was going to do anything for me. I had to make sure it was me the whole entire time. And I kept that mindset all the way. I moved back with my father when I was about 9 years old. And then I moved into an area that was very drug infested in the 80s where crack was very, very big. So I have around 12 to 13 friends that have been murdered because of the drug business. And that was in Seaside, California. It was a very, very drug infested place in the 80s. I went to college. I was a great athlete. I played tennis. I was going for a scholarship to Sonoma State University. But when I got up there, they dropped the tennis program. So I was there by myself. I was going to go to Sacramento and play. But I played football in high school as well. And this is a fluke. You being a football guy, this is a rare thing that happened. I was walking my backpack after school. School just started. I think it was like the first week of college. And they were kicking field goals. And they kicked the field goal. And I just happened to reach my hand out because I was walking, past the end of the field goal and catch the field goal one-handed. Not something I would ever normally do. It was a fluke. I just kind of saw it last minute. And then the wide receiver coach came up to me and said, hey, did you play football before? And I said, yeah, I played football in high school. Defensive back, wide receiver. So he had me come out real quick and catch some passes from the second string quarterback who was just sitting there. And he asked me to join the football team. So I got the privilege to actually play with Larry Allen. So Larry Allen, one of the best offensive linemen, he was there playing at Sonoma State University. We had several classes together, got to know each other. Very funny guy, very great guy. Well, he's a very quiet guy, but when you get to know him, he's a very, very great guy. He just recently passed away a few months ago. So
Yeah, he did.
yeah, that was the young life from that point on.
Okay, let's go back to what can you remember about that bike trip? Because that bike trip seems almost like or surreal. I mean,
it's not even real. And the only way I can validate that bike trip is when people talk to my mom, she'll confirm it. And they also gave me a blue ribbon. So it actually was an event. So the guys were going for time. They were going to achieve something. And I was going just to survive, just to hang on. It was just, sun is what I can remember the most, is the sun beating on my face. And it was just like excruciating, like 100+ degrees. And I was so young, I don't remember if I had water, but I would assume I would have to have water, like a water bottle or something. It would almost be impossible to do it, but I don't remember that. But I do remember wearing jeans, wearing a Bugs Bunny t-shirt for 10 days straight, not a shower, sleeping in the desert. Barely could sleep because I would hear, coyote noises and, strange sounds in the Arizona desert. But it was such an excruciating thing. But I tell you what, after about 3-4 days, I kind of went numb and I just went into survival mode. I didn't even experience the heat, the exhaustion. I was just ready to get back home. So I had that determination in my head that I'm going to make it. And that experience there, I would never want to relive as a child, but I definitely think that's kind of what made me the person I am today.
So you've been a comedian. What has been your genre as a comedian? What is your, do you go on things that have happened to you? Or is it current events of things that you see going on in society?
I try not to be a current event comedian, which a lot of people like. And the reason why is current events come and go. So if you're doing a shtick, would you say, and it's hitting hard and it's great, it's unbelievable, everyone loves it, 2 years later, that thing is not even relevant anymore. I really go by life struggles, things, with my family, my wife, kids, and it evolves. As being a stand-up comic, your routine and everything you say continues to change. So I've been doing that for, I'm going to say 27 years. Mid early 90s is when I started doing stand-up. I was in the very first Laugh-A-Palooza with Mike Epps. Nick Cannon, when he was about 16 years old, he was in it with me as well. I did Comic View, I did HBO, a lot of things. I did Laugh Tracks. That's the last thing I did on television in 2019. But I'm really kind of getting out of the comedy and I'm letting the speaking take over a little bit more, because I used to be a speaker for the Pepsi Corporation. When in my early 20s, I worked for a radio station in the Bay Area, and they would have me actually fly in a helicopter and land on the 50-yard line when the kids have school. And I would come out, because I was kind of a radio personality, and I'd go speak to the kids about adversity and struggle and things like that. So that was when I was really doing a lot of speaking. But comedy took that over, acting took that over. And then I'm trying to get back into that thing. And, I want to something for people to grow on, where stand-up comedy, I'll get your ear for a second, and I'll have you laughing for a little bit, but are you really taking anything away from that? Whereas if I speak to people, I really feel like I'm giving something back to people. And so, at my age, I've done it for 20 some odd years. It's time for something new. And I think speaking it's a great way to reach people.
What is the number one message that you want people to hear when you're doing your keynote speaking?
Well, believe it or not, it's stress. Listening to what I said, stress is huge. I was also a professional fighter too. So it was a short career, but I fought in the K1 World Grand Prix in 2002 at the Mirage Hotel. So I went into that. I was kind of the person where I felt like if there's something to achieve, I want to try to achieve it. And the thing is sometimes when I achieved it, I would just be happy by just achieving it and then go into something new. But just the stress of that bike ride and the stress of being a child and a kid and friends that I knew that got killed, it's something that I learned to deal with, and knowing that stress is always there. You're always going to have stress, and how you manage it is the most important thing. And I try to talk to corporations because stress is huge for corporations. There's over 1 million people a day that call in sick, and then the industry, just the United States, they lose over $200 billion a year just because of stress. So, and the number one stressor in a lot of people's lives is their job. 28% of people say my job is the number one stress in my life. So dealing with that stress, and learning how to harness that stress and build something from it and achieve more. That's kind of what I speak of.
What is your recipe, your formula for alleviating stress and reframing your situation so that you can maybe get a lesson or pivot a little bit on where you're going in your life so that you have less stress moving forward?
Yeah. So for me, as I say, stress is something that you're always going to have. I have a wife, and good thing she's not listening right now because she does stress quite a bit. And she says to me, I'm glad I'm married to you because you don't stress over anything. But internally, I'm stressing over things. I'll stress over what outfit to wear that day. But there's little stressors in life. And what people don't understand is those little stressors can actually make your systems more acute. And it can actually help you survive. A lot of athletes know this as well when they get into a situation where there's no way to win the game, or they can't run that extra amount of time, or they can't sprint past the finish line, or there's too much pressure on them. That little bit of stress helps them achieve greatness. You can ask people like Tom Brady, some of the greatest of all time, Wayne Gretzky, and they'll let you know that stress sometimes is a catalyst that has helped them. So I try to make sure that I tell myself and I tell people that you want to focus on the positive. You want to know, literally, you're here breathing. You're here surviving. Everything is okay. This thing that you're going through right now is not as bad as it seems. And people that do take that stress in stride are the people that are going to survive. And learning how to manage it is huge. So in the corporate world, it's a lot of times people feel like they don't have community. So, you're at a job and you're not relating to anybody. You're not talking to somebody. You're going in your cubicle and you're doing your job. You don't feel community. You're getting stressed out. You don't have inspiration at your job. That can stress you out. You don't feel like there's any personal development in your job. That can stress you out. You don't have a common mission with that job, and that can stress you out. You don't have appreciation from the boss. He doesn't come every once in a while and say, hey, Rick, you're doing a good job, man. I love everything you're doing, this and that. And that stresses people out. So the stressors in life, and then people let you know when they live a happy lifestyle, they tend to live longer. So living longer can also be a goal that you want to have, and you want to actually take that stress and harness it for greatness where it helps you motivate you instead of hinder you.
Okay, so I've got stress. Let's say you're coaching me.
Yeah.
And I'm in the audience of one of your talks.
Yes.
What's the first step that I'm going to write down about how to refit my stress into something that's positive so that I can excel because of the motivation of it and not be paralyzed from analysis of my stress?
Yes. A lot of times I have people, if I am actually talking to somebody one-on-one with a person, I ask them, what is one of the main stressors that you've had in the past? And then they'll describe it to me. And I'll say to them, what was the outcome when that event or that whole process was done? What was the outcome? And then they'll tell me whether the outcome was positive or negative. And if they tell me it was positive, I'll say, with that positive outcome, what did you do in between? Were there any items or any hurdles that you had to go through to make that positive income happen? And then I'll also make them tell me one where it was negative and they didn't have success. And I'll ask them what were the hurdles they went through with that. Because what a lot of people do is if you were told you're going to die tomorrow, that's going to be an incredible amount of stress on you right there. You're going to just, the endorphins in your body, you're just going to go nuts. But what are you going to do with that 24 hours then? You're already told you're going to die. What are you going to do with those 24 hours? Are you going to sit there and stress, bite your fingers, pull your hair out, 24 hours, spend your day just whittling away? Or are you going to go and finalize things that you didn't do in your life? Are you going to talk to people that you didn't talk to? Are you going to figure out, who in your life is important to you? What goals did you not achieve? You're going to have one of those moments where people had that near-death experience and their life flashes between their eyes, and they have nothing that's coming up in that film, their whole life flashes in front of them. So if you take that stress and you learn to live your life as if you literally have, sometimes I break it up into days. Say you had a month to live. So when you have a month to live, you can take those smaller steps towards your goal and what you want to do. If you have a day to live, that's nuts. You're like, what am I going to do? Let me go eat some crab, some lobster. Let me go, you want to do whatever you want to do. Let me talk to the prettiest girl I've ever seen. That gets a little more extreme. But if you had a year to live, if you had a few months to live, if you had 1 month to live, what would you do? And sometimes when we go over that will kick someone in the butt and say, you know what? Yeah, I got to live my life. Instead of you sitting there scrolling on your phone or you're sitting there watching television, or you're just, doing something that's not productive, which is good to do because that relieves stress to relax. But also people stress because they haven't succeeded in their own internal goals and they haven't succeeded in what they feel like is their success in life. I always tell people, don't ever go by anyone else's success. I don't care how much money they think you don't have or what social group you don't live around. That's their issue, not your issue. Your issue needs to be what makes you happy. And when you find out what makes you happy, the stress tends to melt away. And you feel like what you want to achieve to make yourself happy, the stress will tend to melt.
From my perspective, I think stress is when you bring the future to the present.
Yes.
And it's when our minds are, I don't know what percent negative, but we have a lot of negative tendencies. And so if you're in a situation where the outcome is unknown, it could go either way. You're at that Y in the road. You don't know whether going one way is going to take you to the ghetto and the other place, way is going to take you to paradise. Just thinking ahead too much.
100%.
I've found that when people can focus on the moment, especially athletes, in the middle of the game and you're worried about winning the Super Bowl and it's the second game of the season, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, let's just focus on the play that the coach called now.
Yes.
So I think for, regular Joes that don't play sports, but they have careers, what do you got to do today?
Yeah. Good point. And that's why I take people's timelines for their lifespan and shorten it. Because now it's like, what are you going to do in that short amount of time? What are you going to do for that day? And people always say, I have my whole life to do that. I have 50, 60 years or 20 years or 30 years. No, you don't. You have to imagine that it's now. Now's the time to do it. And you're not looking into the future. And, like you said, especially in athletics, people are assuming, you lose one or two games in the beginning of the season in the football season. How many teams have gone and went to the playoffs? Tons. It all turns around, and people have to realize that life turns around. Life changes. Life has ups and downs, just like sports has ups and downs. And you have to just ride the wave. You have to know that bad times are coming and good times are coming. And you have to just be prepared to endure that and strive when that happens and enjoy the successes. And when you have the successes, not just sitting on your laurels, but telling yourself, how did I get to the successful point? And how can I continue to be in a successful point or expand on the success? Because when the bad times come, you have sometimes that recipe to get back into the successful point of view.
What else besides stress do you tackle in your communication through keynotes?
I did talk quite a bit about imposter syndrome because I grew up and with, somebody hitting me and people telling me I wasn't going to be much. And then, like I said, becoming a professional kickboxer and actor and writing a children's book and all the things that I've accomplished, I'm always in that mode of I have to prove myself. And I always have that mode of not so much I'm not good enough, but I'm not good enough to do that. I'm not good enough as a person as a whole, but maybe I'm not good enough to do that. So a lot of times people have just a smidgen of imposter syndrome where they don't feel like they're not good enough as a human being or a person, but they're not good enough to do that, which 100% sometimes they're capable of doing that. Not a problem. It's just where you have to tweak your mind and put yourself into that situation and know what steps have to be taken, what rung on the ladder you have to continue to go up to achieve that. So imposter syndrome was always a big thing for myself. And I didn't really become super comfortable with who I am as a person until I want to say my 40s. I'll be really honest with you, because those young years, you feel like you have something to prove. You have the chutzpah in you, you have the energy, and you have the means sometimes to go ahead and try to make things happen. So I always was in that mode of trying to make things happen. And now at my age, I'm trying to not so much make things happen, but continue to do things that I've already accomplished, not tackle too many new things except for, certain speaking and things like that, but make what I've done better and make what I've done maybe to another level, but not really start anything new, because I want to become really, really good at what I'm doing now and try to become elite at what I'm doing now. Whereas before I would try to see how much I could accomplish little by little and not trying to be elite at what I'm doing. But now I feel like I want to be elite at what I'm doing. And then that would kind of erase a lot of the imposter syndrome, because I'm at a level where I feel like, and if I have other people that are corroborating that with me, saying you are at that level, that kind of takes that imposter syndrome and kind of pushes it to the side.
Why did you pursue the kickboxing 7 years ago or whatever it was?
because guys are stupid. We're always trying to test ourselves. We're always trying to prove ourselves. I did get in a lot of fights when I was younger, and I was actually very, very skinny guy, but I actually got in a lot of street fights with a lot bigger guys, and I would always win. It was very strange. I was very quick. I was very fast. So when I was in college, I also took Taekwondo for quite a while. But the weird thing is why I got into it is because my uncle married this woman. When I went to college, he lived up in where I live, and he married this lady, and her son was a renowned kickboxer. So we became friends. We actually lived together, and he was telling me, you should, try kickboxing. So I tried it with him, and I ended up excelling at it very well. He was putting me up against fighters that were fighting for years, and I'm probably just months into it. And just because I was fast and athletic, it helped for a lot of discrepancies I had in the technique of kickboxing. But then the technique got better and better and better. And I've sparred with 7-time world champions. I've sparred with people who fought in the UFC. I've cornered at the Playboy Mansion. I've done a lot of big events and stuff like that. But just that competitiveness, I remember a lot of times when a new person would come into the gym and they'd just be huge, gigantic, and strong. And they want to learn kickboxing, but they'd have that attitude. And then, so my coach would say, okay, we'll have you start with Ricky. And at that time, I was like 160, real skinny guy. These guys come in like 250. And we'd spar around, and the guy would come out with just a bloody nose, and I would be over there, laughing just because I was so fast. They just weren't able to, get a punch on me, and I'm quick and fast. So it kind of humbled those guys at times, because I know when I started, I was humbled many times, but the craft and just knowing that you can take your body and put it to its peak, but also to its point of breaking, because kickboxing, boxing, a lot of the combat sports, people let you know if they really do it, your body will break. It is one of the toughest things you can ever do as far as athletics or pushing your body, because you can mentally, physically, it will drain you and break a person down. So that was my purpose of it. I played college football just to see if I could play it, and I could play it. I did a lot of things just to see if I could do it. I did kickboxing to see if I can do it. It was not my passion, because I didn't like getting hit in the face. I didn't like getting kicked in the leg. When I flew home from my flight from Las Vegas, I had a knee that was as big as a volleyball, almost just swollen. I was sitting in the airplane, just in the alley, and people would just come by and saw my knee wrapped, and it was just huge, and it took forever to heal. I wasn't attracted to that, but I wanted to know that it's something I can do, and that's kind of, as men do a lot of times, we get stupid, and we try to see what we can accomplish, and that was one of the things that I really want to see if I could accomplish.
Okay, so Ricky, do you tennis in college?
No, I was supposed to. Like when I went to Sonoma State, they dropped the program that year, 1992. So there was not enough funding to play. I didn't play.
No, right?
I'm sorry?
You're coaching tennis now?
I am coaching now. Yeah, I didn't even pick up a racket for about 30 years. And then my daughter was playing high school, and I wanted to, just be there to help out. It was her senior year of high school, and the coach of the team ended up quitting. So I ended up becoming the head coach, and now I'm my third year of coaching the girls, and it's a lot of fun. Teaching girls is fun. They really listen to you. A lot of times some of the guys have an ego, feel like I teach boys and girls, but the girls, they really want to listen. They really want to learn the sport, especially ones who haven't been taught before in tennis. So they don't have that instruction from the past, but the girls are fun. I make it a very unstressful environment. They all tell you, I'm not worried about you winning. I'm not worried about a record. I'm worried about you learning that you can struggle through something and get through it, because a lot of these girls, they don't have that struggle in their life. And tennis can be a very mentally challenging game. And they come up to situations where they're struggling. And I've had girls come up to me crying in the middle of matches that they can't figure out what's going on. And we're able to tackle that and let them know that these are the kind of things, even though this is just tennis, and just like any sport, you're going to come up with these issues in life. You have to learn how to deal with them now. Winning, losing, being scared, being worried. There's all these issues that go through your brain, and these are all going to happen when you become an adult, when you go through life, when you work. So let's deal with it now. Let's worry. So I kind of take what I speak about, and I kind of sprinkle it into the girls' tennis as well. And the parents thank me. They said their daughters love playing. They don't feel pressure like they have in other sports. But it tends to let people win, to let them feel relaxed, because I was yelled at when I played sports, and many times you're too scared to make a mistake. So now you playing at your peak performance, it's not going to happen because you're just too worried about, I don't want to make a mistake. I get Play basketball, I get the basketball. I'm going to pass it right away because I'm worried the coach is going to yell at me. But here, I say, we're going to make 1,000 mistakes all the time, every day. It's just, if you learn from these mistakes when you play the sport, that's what's going to make you a better player. So let's just learn from our mistakes.
How do you coach your team, your girls, when, let's just take your best tennis player. Your best tennis player may not be her best or his best. I guess you coach the boys too. When the game's on the line, the match is on the line. When this particular point is the decisive point in the match.
Yeah.
How do you coach them to not feel the pressure, not feel the stress of that moment when the success or failure of that point can dictate whether they go home or yes?
That's a great question because I have a great example. So for 2 years, she's gone now. She graduated high school, but for 2 years, I had a nationally ranked player, incredible athlete. She's been playing tennis since she was like 3 years old, nationally ranked. I mean, this girl she can mop the floor with anybody. College men, she trained with college men when she was in high school, college players, and she could beat some of those college players as well. So her first year with me, she won the whole sectional divisional, went on to a big regional tournament, got to the finals. She got to the finals and she lost to this girl. So the next year, let's fast forward to the next year. Now she's a senior. Same thing. She didn't lose one game, not one game in every single match that she had. People don't know tennis. There's 12 games minimum in a tennis match. She did not lose one game in the whole season. She did not lose one game in the whole regional tournament. So she beat everybody 6-0, 6-0. That's how good she was. Now she gets to the huge tournament. She gets to the finals. She's playing the same girl she lost to last year. So she's winning in the beginning, doing great. The other girl's nervous because my girl on my team, she's actually ranked higher, better player. So there's more pressure on her. She wins the first set. She gets into the second set. She loses the second set. She gets into the third set and she starts to lose. So everybody's watching. There's tons of people. And I literally see her face. She is breaking down. Mentally, she's breaking down. She's on the brink of crying. So I'm watching the match and I just can't wait to go talk to her. And luckily now tennis, you can coach. Back when I played, you couldn't coach at all, but you can actually go on the court. You can coach on the switch when she's actually realizing she's going to lose and she is going to lose this match. And she does not want to lose. She's so competitive. She does not want to lose to this girl for a second year in a row. It also will help affect where she goes to college, where she plays. So I go out on the court and you can just tell she is at the breaking point. And when I go into the court, she literally breaks down in front of just a crowd of people. She is in tears, crying. I mean, I almost broke down because I saw how much she wanted this. And I told her, she had tears going down her face and I just pulled her hair to the side and her parents are watching. And I said, you know what? In a few months, a year, you won't even think of this match. This will be nothing. This is one little blip. You've only been alive 18 years. This is one blip in your whole entire life. Whether you win this or lose this, people over here watching you are not going to think any less of you. They know you're an incredible player. They've watched you play this whole tournament. People that know you have watched you play your whole entire life. This is nothing. Athletes go up and down. The greatest athletes lose to some of the people that they're not supposed to lose to. Let's just relax. Let's play the match. Let's play it how you want to play it. Let your body be. Let's say if you believe you're going to lose this match, then you should be even more relaxed. But you always have a chance to come back. But let's relax because I promise you, this is not the last time you're going to play tennis. And I promise you, this is not the defining moment in your life. So let's just go out there. Let's relax. It's almost going to be done. She took a deep breath. She took a drink of water. The chair umpire tells me, you need to hurry up. We got to get going, you know. And even the other player feels bad. She's a super sweet girl and she feels bad. And I said, let's just play this match like you want to win it. If you miss a point, it's not a big deal. And I promise you, you're going to get through this. Don't worry about it. She plays, she loses. She thanks me for all the words. The mom thanks me, but then she just collapses and breaks down in her mom's arms. And just like, I feel so bad. The newspapers are talking to her. But the funny thing is she's a member at the tennis club I go to. And I talk to her often. And I didn't bring up the match at all. But then 8 months later, I brought up the match. And I said, do you still think about that match you played? You know, she goes, no, I don't. And I go, good. I go, how significant was that match to you now as opposed to then? She goes, It wasn't that big of a deal. She goes, I got to the finals. It didn't mess with my national ranking. I'm good. I go, exactly. I go, life is like that. That's one little thing that you think is so traumatic that's going to affect everything in life, but it didn't. And now she had many scholarships, but she had stress in her life. I wish I could be somebody who could talk to her all the time, but her father is a very stressful coach and he coached her forever. And so she lived with that burden on her shoulders that she has to be that good. And she was not going to play college tennis. She had scholarships and she just gave it up. But now she's starting to enjoy tennis again. And she's going to take 1 year at the junior college and she's going to actually go and play probably for Santa Barbara or for Cal Poly because she's already talked to the coach. But she's an incredible athlete. She can do it. It's just there's been so much pressure on her put as a young girl and she just didn't want the pressure. But now she's at the point where she's enjoying the game again and she's going to go.
Well, one of the things about pro mindset is creating an invincible performance bubble and for those moments.
Yeah.
So the way that I coach young men that are facing like these big moments, I would consider that a big moment. You're in the finals, you haven't lost a game, let alone a match.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
So what happens is in your performance bubble, really all you want in it is your belief in yourself, your confidence in your skills, and it's going to allow you to flow and have peace and have freedom in movement. But here's what happens. If her dad was her coach, her dad talked to her all week about this is the tournament. It's going to be playing against this girl. You're probably going to face her in the finals. You better not let her beat you this year. And she was thinking about the outcomes. She was thinking about disappointing her dad. She was thinking about all the optics of what this looks like to her standing in the national rankings. She was thinking about the stuff that doesn't matter, but it did matter because she was allowing it to be in her headspace. Where if you have an invincible performance bubble, you don't let that come in. And like in leading up to the match or leading up to the competition, you absolutely meditate and create and determine what you want in and what you don't want in. So that when you get in that moment, your suggestion for her taking a deep breath is beautiful. Because when you take a deep breath, you let out what doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
And it's noise. It's all those things. And so if you could, if you look at Michael Jordan and look at some of the best, they thrived in the biggest moments.
Crazy. I know.
But they didn't succeed every time.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Comparatively.
Yes.
And the reason why is because they're able to create this invincible performance bubble, this safe headspace where all that stuff that stresses people out, they don't feel the stress.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time in basketball games where, it doesn't matter what level. It could be the NBA, it could be WNBA, it could be, March Madness. The team that has the ball needs to get a three, and they've got 40, 50 seconds to go. And the girls, if there's a shot clock, they wait to the last 3 seconds and just throw up a Hail Mary because nobody wants to take the shot.
Yes.
Even the best players don't want to take the shot.
You got it. Because all the blame's going to go on them.
Yeah. So what they're looking at is what is the potential negative consequences of not making it instead of putting themselves in a headspace where I'm going to take my shot. I'm going to get open. I've made this shot 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
I practice, I practice taking 500 shots a day all summer.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was in preparation for this big moment to not just like blow it because, in those big moments, the bigger the pressure, the bigger the consequences.
Yeah.
Is when the athletes crumble and self-destruct most often.
Yeah.
And that's what your tennis girl did.
Yeah. 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 It's 100% true. We had a match yesterday and the girls are losing and they're playing very tentative and they're not stroking the ball. They're just trying to push it and get it in. I go, you're playing to just keep the ball in. You're playing to just be here to survive. You're not playing to win. You're not going to win a match by just dinking it back to her. You have to take the initiative. You have to be aggressive. And they flipped it around and 2 of the girls went 3 sets and they ended up winning. I said, you got to stroke the ball. I don't care if you lose. You have to play what you've practiced. You don't practice just dinking the ball and hitting like that. You don't practice that. You practice stroking the ball. So why play a game that girl is better at and you're going to lose that where she can play the game that you're good at? You need to continue to stroke that ball. They flipped it around and and ended up winning. So yeah. But the bigger the moment, you're 100% right. The bigger the consequence, and people don't want that. Because what happens is when an athlete fails, they'll talk about that success, but they are quicker to talk about the failure and how they didn't live up to what they did, and how why does the team have them? Why is the coach still keeping them? They're easy to crucify somebody. That's always fun for people to do, which is disgusting, rather than praise how good they are. Because when they praise how good you are, they're always looking for a flaw. Look at Steph Curry. I mean, the guy's, unbelievable. There's so many good things, but everyone's looking for something. They're looking for something. If they find one little thing, like how much he didn't tip at a restaurant or something, then that's going to go viral. Everyone's going to be like, oh, you're cheap, Steph Curry, something stupid. But they always are quick to tear somebody down. It's incredible.
Well, Ricky, I would say that from a coaching perspective, the best thing you could do as a coach is to condition your athletes to focus on being their best versus winning.
Yeah.
And when they focus on being their best, it's a whole different mojo, because winning many times is the natural result of playing your best.
Yes, of course, you got it. Yeah.
But if you play your best and you lose, can you play better than your best? You can't.
No, your best is your best.
Your best is your best. So if you play your best and you still lose, that's if you gave it everything you got, you can hold your head up high and walk off the court and be cool.
Yep.
But what really stinks is when you're not playing your best. And if you woulda won, but you didn't and you didn't.
Yeah.
And it's I think parents, I think coaches, I think teammates, I think everybody is you got to win. No. It's let's go do your thing. You've earned the right to be in this situation, to be in this moment. You've paid the price. You put in the work. You've done everything. You've structured your life so that this is priority. So when that moment comes, which it comes in small moments all along the way, that you get opportunities to practice creating an invincible performance bubble. But then when you get in that big moment, it's no different.
100%. I always tell my girls, I don't care if we win or lose. I just care that you gave your best. That's all I care about. If you don't give your best, then you're going to go home thinking, I didn't give my best. But if you gave your best and you lost, then that person was just the better person. You're not going to always play at your best either. That's what I let them know. Days are going to be, there's going to be some days you can't hit a ball. And you're trying, but you just can't hit a ball. And there's days where you're not even trying and you're playing incredible. But, if you're always striving to play your best, that's all I care about.
I think one of the most important things as a individual sport athlete is to find out what version of you is showing up that day. And if you're hitting your serves long, make the adjustment. You're going to know real quick. You're going long. Let's make the adjustment. So you got to find out what version of you is showing up, because we're not robots. We don't have the same game every single day. And so it's playing golf is kind of the same way. You have to make it small adjustments. And one of the best things I think as a coach, you being in the position you're in, is to help the athletes learn how to self-coach, self-adjust.
Exactly.
Self-regulate.
Yeah.
And I think that what is maybe true, you may have found to be true, is when their emotions are regulated, everything's happening the way they expected it to happen. It's fun and it's easy.
Yeah.
But when things are unregulated, because your emotions are unregulated because you're surprised, you were thrown a curveball, bad weather, you're not getting the call that you think they called it out and you thought it was in.
Yeah.
And you're 5 minutes past that moment, but you're still back on that unfairness.
Oh yeah. That can haunt you. You got to let that go. Oh yeah.
Let it go. We're in the let it go business. You got to just let it go.
Yeah. Especially golf, boy. When you bring up golf, holy moly. The adjustments are so minor and the mental is so stressful that, just like you said, individual sports that's why a lot of the individual sports, a lot of the tennis players, the pros, they all have psychologists. They all have coaches that, help work on their mind all the time. It's individual sport. The loss is on you. The win is on you. It's a tough thing, individual sports. Very tough.
Well, I appreciate it. And everybody that's listening, if you want to check out the Pro Mindset book, it's been out for a minute. and you can get it on Amazon and anywhere else you can find books, or you can get the Audible version as well. But I want to thank Ricky D. We're going to check it out and have a great day.
You got it. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, it's Craig Domann, the host of Pro Mindset Podcast. I want to thank you for listening or watching today's show. And you can catch us every week on the normal social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all the listening podcast platforms. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And more importantly, I hope you gained a pro mindset insight. Please be sure to rate and review Pro Mindset Podcast. And I look forward to catching up with you on our next show.